My path was my namesake, Capella. If not for the plague, I would have spread among the children a heathen cult. Our parents would have lived forever.
My path was called the diaphragm. I thought I was free to decide the fate of the kin. But fortune had something else in mind.
My path was not called the spider. No, think wider. It was the silkworm. At the end of a railroad, I pulled strings firm. Unawares, someone more cunning pulled mine upstairs.
My path was called the burden of the living. I just wanted to care for those leaving us behind.
My path was called a home for the living. Kindness guided me, but I could have never known I was to meet my father's murderer.
My path was called larger than life. There isn't a single boundary I haven't broken. I've done everything I ever wanted to.
My path was called the calligrapher. They wouldn't let me forget what I'd done, but they couldn't kill me. That means this is just the beginning.
My path was called the Rat Prophet. I didn't know that it was he who whispered to me in dreams. Until the very end, I believed it was the Earth.
My path was called the restoration of power. I wanted to return strength and dignity to our country. I could have become the ruler were it not for the plague.
I am a servant, broken by another's will.
My path was called tripwires of fate. I built the roads of this town such that humans became red blood cells in its veins, and I laid bare the logic of immanence.
My path was called the blood of the earth. Well, I found out what comes from where, and the conclusions are obvious. My path was called the warden. With the fruits of my sacrilege, I sated the town.
My path was called the High Day. If not for the plague, I'd have seized power from the adults and instituted a dictatorship of the juveniles. But Capella had a better idea.
My path was called a half-soul more. I wanted to create a real utopia, a fraternity of boys and pups, girls and kittens, tots and cubs.
My path was called Earth. I could have told you all why the black soil is not to blame for this catastrophe.
My path was called the return of magic. I wanted the power to create a place of miracles and precious anarchy.
My path was called the Mistress. I tried to anchor the memory of my unearthly wife here in this town.
My path was called necrology. If you can survive the trial of death, I did everything I could so that a handful might pass the test.
My path was called the Angel of Death. I'm not sure myself why I was in the caravan. Forgive me, please. I promise I'll be good.
My path was called something or other. I forget. Had something to do with bulls.
My path was once called Goldilocks, but then I wanted to offer my soul to the cathedral, so that it would hold something truly immortal.
My path was called In Defiance. I almost tracked down that weird creature, but then I found a better goal. I'm going to become a real doctor.
And my path was called Feed the Doll. I also wanted to be with Mom and Dad.